I'm so delighted to have you in this project, Dawson Church. Thank you for being here with us and for being willing to share your insight, your particular insight into awe.
I've so enjoyed our previous conversations, Shai, and I'm honored to be here. And I'm so delighted to be sharing together on this awesome theme. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That's lovely. So as you already understand in this project, what we do is that we're guiding readers, listeners, and viewers on different journeys into the best reasons for feeling awe. And I would like to invite you now to introduce us to one good reason for feeling awe. I know that in your tremendously rich and fascinating field of study and exploration, you've probably found many good reasons for feeling awe. So perhaps it would be a little challenging for you to select one, but just for the sake of this interview.
Yeah, so you're right. There are thousands of reasons that we can look at, we can consider for feeling awe. But I'm going to start with one, Shai,
Yes, please.
that I think is fundamental. And that is the fact that you and I and everyone with us right now are breathing. We have breath. We have the gift of breath. And I was so struck. I was writing an essay recently on the commonalities of the world's spiritual traditions and the ways we can bring ourselves into elevated states of consciousness and connect with the all that is and with the transcendent state of being. And I realized that the commonality to so many of these spiritual traditions is the breath. And so just the fact that we're breathing is a cause for awe. One of the pieces of data I looked up on the World Health Organization website recently was to do with breathing. Because one day I was sitting in meditation, I was just enjoying the privilege of taking a deep, slow, fulfilling breath. And I suddenly thought, I wonder how many people in the world can't take a deep breath like that. I looked up the data, and the number was around 400 million people in the world have some kind of respiratory distress, have some kind of reason why just taking a breath is a challenge for them. And so you're breathing, I'm breathing, we're all breathing. That one thing, we can sit here and just take a breath, and that is grounds for awe. Now, breath is far more than breath. If you read Ramana Maharshi, the great Indian saint of the early 20th century, or read Paramahansa Yogananda's famous bestseller, Autobiography of a Yogi, many of the spiritual traditions, from the Jewish scriptures to the Christian scriptures to Lao Tzu in China, or the Eastern traditions, we find that they are all reminding us that the breath is fundamental to life and that the breath is the connection point with the infinite. And so it sounds so simple. We take 26,000 breaths a day unconsciously. That's about 8 million breaths a year we take unconsciously. We aren't even thinking about it. Our body is keeping us breathing. Our body is keeping us alive without me having to think, okay, now Dawson, breathe in. Now breathe out. It's all happening spontaneously. And so it's easy to take that 26,000 breaths a day for granted. And yet these traditions tell us that the breath is the connection point with the divine. The breath is the connection point with the transcendent. So I want to start with the most basic possible way of feeling awe, which is just to sit here and feel your in-breath and your out-breath. Now, if you slow it down a little bit, if you get more conscious of it, if you bring your breathing down slowly to about 6 seconds per in-breath and about 6 seconds per out breath. Then you go into this phenomenon called heart coherence. Now, my heart rate is coherent. My heart function is coherent. What that does is it triggers brain coherence. Now, my brain literally entrains to my heart. And now my brain is coherent. My brain is emitting coherent brain waves. So my brain waves from delta, then theta, alpha, beta, gamma, all the way up the range are brain waves. Those brain waves become coherent, and they become in sync with each other and with the rest of my physiology. So it's producing profound shifts and profound effects on our health and well-being. And as all of those spiritual authorities tell us, it's the connection with the infinite. So there is if you had to pick one thing of the million reasons to be filled with awe every day, start with your breath.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I really appreciate that you are guiding us toward attention to something that is, well, literally under our nose, right? And because awe it tends to hide behind and beneath the most ordinary phenomena. Isn't that so? So perhaps you can even, can we take a moment in which you are guiding us to become more conscious of our breath?
Yeah. And one way to become more conscious of it is to simply focus on an experience that left you feeling awe. In Sufism, in the Sufi tradition, this is called the glimpse of heaven. And we've all had that glimpse of heaven when you've held a newborn baby in your arms, when you have met with a friend after a long absence and you feel that sense of connection with them, when you walk on the beach and you look down and see the waves that are splashing on the beach near your feet and you feel your toes sinking down into the beach sand, or when you look at a beautiful sunset, any of those things are what the Sufis call a glimpse of heaven and bring you into that state of awe. When you listen to music, your favorite composer or your favorite band, and you feel yourself swept up in that state of flow, which again is a very specific set of brain waves that we measure with MRIs or EEGs. So when you get into that state of flow, that'll do it. When you look at art, or when you do art, or when you're doing any kind of performance that really inspires you, you can have those glimpses. So the simplest exercise to get in touch with awe is just to close your eyes. And let's just all do that now together.
Yes, please.
So close your eyes and reflect on one of your glimpses. What glimpse did you have that left you feeling filled with awe, that put you in flow, that sense of perfection? So reflect on this event. Now that you've got your event, I want you to tune in to the quality of all five senses you experienced at that time. So reflect on what you saw. So you saw something, whether it was the sunset or the waves of the ocean or the image of the saint or the work of art. So reflect on the visual component of your experience of awe and notice all the details of what you saw. What was the smallest thing, the biggest thing, the most vivid color? And really tune into the visual component of that awe-inspiring experience. Feel your breath as you breathe in and out. And now, tune into what you heard. What were you hearing during that moment? What was the loudest sound, the softest sound, the most unusual sound. And become aware of your breath flowing in and out. And imagine your breath flowing in and out through the center of your chest. So you're breathing in through the center of your chest, and you're breathing out through the center of your chest. And now, notice any scent, any smell that you noticed during that moment of awe. Maybe if it was at the ocean, it was the salty scent of the waves. If it was in a garden, it may have been the scent of the flowers. So tune into any scent that might have been present during that experience of awe. Feel your breath again flowing in to your body, flowing in and out through your heart, through the center of your chest. And now reflect on any taste that you might have experienced at that moment. So you might have tasted that salty air. You might have salivated at that experience of a very rich, sensual experience. So reflect on your taste. And slowly breathe in and out through your heart. And now notice what you were touching. Perhaps you picked up that sand from the beach and felt the grains of sand flow through your fingers. Maybe you touched a rose. Maybe you touched a baby's cheek. Mm-hmm. And you had that physical experience, tactile experience of touch to go along with this moment of awe. And tune into your breath again. Breathe slowly in and out through your heart. And open your eyes, and you've now had a rich, multi-sensory experience of that glimpse. And some of those great philosophers and sages, like Dr. Paul Brunton in the 1920s and 30s, who was a student of Ramana Maharshi, would have us dwell on the glimpse. The Sufis recommend we make remembering the glimpse part of our spiritual practice. You have the glimpse of heaven, now remembering it. And then neuroscience tells us that when we centralize it, when we bring in all five senses into our memory, it then lights up and activates different parts of the brain. And we begin to have a whole brain experience of that glimpse. Now it becomes extremely real to the brain, and more likely that we'll be able to evoke those feelings of awe in the future. So all we've done here is we've simply remembered one of our many glimpses of heaven. We dwell on it. We're firing those neurons. When you fire neurons, you wire them. In my book, Bliss Brain, I have an image of two neurons from that are firing together, and in the scanning electron microscope image of these two neurons, you see them shaking, vibrating as they fire together, and slowly they move closer and closer together, and eventually they literally shake hands and wire together. And the whole process from firing to wiring takes 12 seconds. So all you need to do is savor that experience of awe for 12 seconds, and already potentially you're creating a new neural pathway. Do that repeatedly, you're creating many new neural pathways over time. That's literally changing the anatomical structure of your brain and sensitizing you to awe, and you then become a person who has an appreciation and a delight and an affinity for those kinds of experiences.
Wow, that was an incredible meditation. Thank you so much. I hope I'll be able to ask further questions.
Yeah, don't put your brain to sleep, Shai.
I'm also so happy that you weaved the element of awe into our breathing awareness. Well, I think that many people are aware of the meditation of mindfulness of breathing, but only few are aware of the fact that when the Buddha first designed this meditation, he actually did it because he believed that mindfulness of breathing can actually connect us with reality. So this could actually constitute a complete path to reality, to liberation, to transcendence. So my next question is, why would you say our breath can connect us with the infinite? How are the two related? We're alive. What is this link?
We're alive, and being alive is by itself a miracle. Like if you think for a moment about a corpse in the morgue. So imagine you're visiting a hospital, there's a dead body on the slab in the morgue, and this person has been pronounced dead a second before by a doctor. The doctor has said this person is dead. So that dead body, if you think about it, has all the cells required to move, love, laugh, do all the activities of life. It has all the enzymes, all the proteins, all the genes, everything required for life, all the molecules, everything is there. It's just missing one thing. And that's actual life force. So 5 minutes before, this person was alive. Now this person is dead, and so there's just a dead body there. And so that's the miracle of life. And so we want to connect ourselves with gratitude for that miracle of life in every moment. And awe is one of the paths to doing that. When you feel awe, a part of the brain, a lobe of the brain called the insula, lights up. And so we have our 4 familiar lobes of the neocortex, the new part of the brain, the most recently evolved part of the brain. Right below that, we have the insula. The insula is quite a big lobe of the brain. And the insula is what lights up when people are experiencing awe. They also have this part of the brain light up when they're experiencing positive emotion generally. So gratitude and happiness and thankfulness and altruism, compassion, all of these things light up the insula. So this emotional capacity of human beings, positive emotion, is linked to that part of the brain. And when you cultivate that ability to move into these positive states, that part of the brain wires and fires and then becomes better at signaling and gradually develops connections with other parts of the brain. So now you're much more inclined to be in those states because you've developed your neural capacity to experience those states. So just something as simple as breathing, something as simple as moving into awe is able to move you there. And you want to use simple practices, especially when you're stressed. When we're stressed, we can't remember elaborate things we're supposed to do. Like if you've ever learned nonviolent communication, which I really like, admire, and use myself, but I know when I'm stressed, I can't remember to differentiate between needs and feelings, or like many of the cognitive therapy techniques that I also teach. They're great when I'm able to think. When I'm stressed, though, I can't think. My brain, my reasoning brain shuts down. I'm in my emotional brain. I'm in my fight or flight mode. And in those states, you can't function. You can't recall all of those really elaborate ideas that cognitive techniques have us use. But you can breathe. Remember to breathe and remember to feel. And so that's able to reconnect you with that sense of something transcendent. So that's when you're stressed. When you're not stressed, say you get up in the morning, you put on a meditation track, you meditate early in the morning, and I really recommend you meditate first thing in the morning. Like this morning, I meditated before I brushed my teeth, just like get out of bed. The first priority of the day is to plug in to that transcendent state. So what's more important than that? I mean, is any email more important than is any news story? Is any ache or pain in my body more important than plugging into the infinite? Do I want to go face the day without being plugged into the infinite? So the first thing you do, you just get out of bed, you breathe, you plug into that which is greater than your local self. And we are that thing, that consciousness greater than our local self. Rumi said that we are not a drop in the ocean of consciousness. We are the ocean of consciousness in a drop. And so we're able to plug into the whole of consciousness when we deliberately induce those states early in the morning, and then that frames your day. I go into my day not as a confused and disturbed and distracted human being. I go into my day with passion and purpose and power because I plugged into the infinite. So sure, the day will bring challenges and difficulties and stresses and problems, and I am facing them as that person who first thing in the morning prioritized framing the day in positivity and plugging into the all it is. And that just radically changes your day. We interview people sometimes. I do a lot of research. We get a lot of quantitative data from people through our research studies. I've been involved in over 100 studies, but we also interview people, and they tell us that the days they don't meditate, the days they skip meditation, just don't go as well, because they don't have that resource. So that's why I'm such a passionate advocate of meditation first thing of the day. So plug in, frame your day that way, move forward that day, and then your whole day is transformed. It's also then an extension of your spiritual life. You live your day, you live your business, your money, your house, your marriage, your children, your grandchildren, your parents, your friends. Everything is an extension of that spiritual connection that we create first thing in the day. We connect our local minds with non-local mind, with great mind. We live then from that transcendent perspective. So first thing in the morning, breath, meditation is going to take you there. It then has a dramatic effect throughout your whole day. And I'll just finish by saying, in one study that I did, which we're now publishing the results of in a peer-reviewed medical journal, we looked at what happens with people later in the day. So we were measuring all the usual phenomena about transcendence, and we know that they enter transcendent states. But for the very first time, we're asking the question, how do they perform at work after they're in those states? So what happens when the meditator goes to work and then has all the stresses of a job and children and money and all of the ups and downs of life? And we found that within 30 days of practicing the meditation tracks on my website, within 30 days of using those tracks on the website, they are 20% more productive. In 1 month, their productivity goes up 20%. That is like accomplishing in 4 days what used to take you 5 days. And that's just in the first 30 days of using those practices. If you keep on doing it for 3, 6, 9, 12 months and longer, you become even more productive. So it's not just affecting your own disposition, your mind, your emotions in the beginning of the day. It's literally making you a more effective human being as you move through your day.
This has been irresistibly convincing. I think that all of these should be considered. And when you are speaking of all these levels of levels or dimensions of life that become aroused or awakened as a result of breathing, this kind of plugging ourselves into the cosmic socket, as it were.
I love that
because
phrase.
This is what you're actually describing. You are indicating that breath is life force. Is that right? So how is that connected? Because you mentioned before traditions and ancient schools of thought that refer to breath, and they also refer to another aspect, the subtle aspect of the life force, which state sometimes termed prana, sometimes chi. How do you see these two dimensions of the life force?
Yeah, and all the ancient traditions, they use different terms for it, like you mentioned chi or prana in India. And so they all have some notion of the life force. They all notice that that dead corpse on the morgue table doesn't have it, and the live person has this mysterious thing. And even though that dead corpse has everything else required for great life, cells and enzymes and genes, they don't have this mysterious thing called life energy. Also, one other dimension of that is the amount of you have flowing. So in acupuncture, for example, the acupuncturist, if you go in for a treatment, will read your acupuncture meridians and then say, oh, okay, we notice there is a blockage in the spleen meridian. Let's insert a needle and release that blockage, and then that life force will flow. So you want to have that life force flowing. You want to have the life force flowing evenly on both sides of your body, both left and right, both front and back. And so there are 12 primary acupuncture meridians. And when you balance those, then the life force flows evenly. And then you also have energy. You have plenty of energy. And I hear so many people shy, even young people. I'm teaching workshops sometimes, and I'm either teaching them in person, or I'm teaching them remotely, online. And often young people, like in their 20s, are telling me, I have no energy. I'm dragging myself to work every day. I'm dragging myself to play with my kids and take care of my family, and I just have low energy. You want to have vibrant energy. You want to have lots of energy flowing through you. There's an amazing YouTube video I watched about 10 years ago of a Tai Chi master doing Tai Chi at 114 years old. This guy, Chinese guy, is 114 years old. And here he is. He has full range of motion in every joint. He's moving fluidly and easily as he does those Tai Chi moves. He died a couple of years after that video. But imagine having that much life force at 100, at 90. You know, one of the things we find about people who do these practices, so one thing is they live longer. And if you look at studies, and again, there are some marvelous long-term studies, which I describe in my books, about people who practice awe, gratitude, all these other positive emotions daily, and they live longer. Optimists, for example, in giant population studies, are shown to live about 10 years longer than pessimists. Optimism, a positive emotional attitude, a positive take on your circumstances confers around 10 years greater longevity on average than pessimism. So you want to be triggering these states. Not only does it feel much better every day, every moment to be filled with awe, joy, gratitude, optimism, but it's having an effect on your gene expression. In one study I did with veterans with PTSD, we showed that in 6 treatments with acupressure and working on their cognitive issues, all the fears and terrible memories of trauma around combat, all of those fears and all of those emotional blockages went away. And we found, when we looked at their gene expression before and after, that the genes that regulate inflammation were dialed up. So now their bodies are regulating the excess inflammatory response. Their genes to do with immunity were dialed way up. Another study done by a colleague of mine found that genes to do with memory and learning were dialed up after these treatments, which I describe in my books. So there are all of these physiological benefits to us for plugging in and doing this. We feel better, but the long-term effect is greater longevity and greater health. So there are so many reasons to do this. One reason, of course, is feeling wonderful every day, plugging into that divine light socket, as you put it, and downloading all the power, imagination, and creativity and joy. Love. I mean, there is so much love out there, Shai. Sometimes when I finish meditation and I'm starting to walk around my house for the morning, the love I feel pouring through from that dimension is so great. I don't even know what to do with it all. Sometimes I'm singing, sometimes I'm dancing, sometimes I'm running outside to smell the roses in the garden. And you just have all this life flowing through you. And that life energy, that chi, is flowing abundantly. So you find these people are chi-ful. They have chi. And you also find then that, like that Tai Chi master, with that chi, with that life force flowing through them, they have much longer, not just lifespans, but health spans. They don't have all the degenerative diseases that people who aren't allowing energy to flow through them are subject to. They have much lower rates of those diseases, and often they're very, very healthy until just a few days before their physical bodies die. So chi energy is powerful. And it's just a tragedy. If you're 25 years old or 45 years old and you aren't feeling full of life, cultivate awe, cultivate gratitude, cultivate joy, cultivate inner peace. Do these things. It's super easy to cultivate. Just spend half an hour in the morning, listen to a guided meditation track. You just have to listen passively along, and you start to produce all these epigenetic changes in your body. And you'll start to feel better usually within a month. We did one randomized controlled trial of people doing one of my meditation tracks compared to a control group. And we found that in just 1 month, the insula, that lobe of the brain that is responsible for all of these positive emotions, all gratitude, joy, in only a month, the brain had literally rewired itself to make the insula more active. So compared to the control group, which saw no change, the group doing meditation just for a month had this shift in function and anatomical structure in their brains. The lobe that actually governs awe and these other positive emotions was more active in only 30 days. So do that. Do yourself the favor of using meditation for only a month, and you'll start to feel energy changing in your body. Do it for a year, and the whole landscape of your life will start to shift. So we have all of these things available to us. They're free. They're available online. They're easy to do. Yes. And so there's no reason not to cultivate what in Taoism is called cultivate that chi, that life energy.
Yes, that's wonderful. So my last question is, I think it follows from everything that you've said so far. How would you recommend that we begin to associate breath with awe? How could we make this connection in our daily life, in our daily awareness?
Virtually every meditation tradition is going to recommend you focus on the breath in some way. Even those who that use mantra repetition or singing or chanting are using that cycle of the breath. So start by just being awed by the fact that you can breathe every day. Just be filled with gratitude for the fact that you aren't that corpse on the slab. You are a living, breathing human being, and you have this gift called life. What will you do with it? Just this one day, for this one day, what will you do with this gift called life? If we saw life as precious, if we saw every single thought in our consciousness, every single emotion in our hearts as a precious opportunity to fill ourselves with life, with joy, with chi, with awe, then if we have that frame for our lives, every single day is a miracle. Why not make every single day a miracle? You know, every single day I'm alive, I feel so happy and excited. I just jump every day with enormous enthusiasm because I, again, plugged into that divine light socket in the morning. I breathed. I have amplified my chi. I felt the life energy flowing through me. I then go and do things with that life energy. That's that productivity I mentioned earlier. Again, a 20% life increase in productivity in only 30 days. So again, I'm more productive, I'm accomplishing more, I'm having a much more satisfying life, and then the results start to show around you. So it's a very simple practice. If you just meditate in the morning and then enter that space, you find that awe and gratitude and compassion are natural. You can't stop them. You don't have to try and create them in your life. They're just there. They're just flowing out all around you. So you walk out of your house, you're so happy, you start smiling at people. Like, you know, I walk around smiling most of the day. And what I found is that I'm smiling. I'm just looking at strangers in the street and I'm smiling. I walk by somebody in the park and I smile at that person. I say hello and they smile and they say hello. So suddenly my whole life is full of friendly people who are smiling back at me because I'm smiling. I'm sharing that joy all around me. And so I now perceive the world as a place of love and safety and support and connection because I am generating those emotions in myself. As I express them, they then reciprocate back to me as well. So it's so powerful to do this. And again, we have that choice every day to connect with breath and then connect with awe, externalize that, live our lives that way. And as we live our lives that way, it reflects back to us. One of the things people don't realize is that the way our minds and our brains are creating a reality every day, you have 10 times the number of neurons flowing from your visual cortex, the back of your head, the part of the brain that processes visual information. 10 times the number of neurons flowing to the eyes as flowing from the eyes. Now, you have a lot of neurons going from the eyes to the visual cortex. You have 10 times as many going from the visual cortex into the central connecting point of the optic nerve. So you, by your perception, by your beliefs about the world, are literally telling your eyes what to see. And you will start to see beauty. If your mind is full of beauty, you will start to see joy. If your mind is full of joy, you'll start to see generosity. If your mind is full of generosity, you will start to see courage and compassion. If your mind is full of all of these things, we literally create the world. I wrote a whole book called Mind to Matter about how our brains literally are creating what we think of as the world outside of ourselves and external reality. So my vision for everyone here is that we are creating the most gorgeous and satisfying and awesome external reality possible by filling our mind and our brain with those energies and those virtues.
Wow. That's this whole discussion has been a source of awe for me. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for this absolutely exhilarating talk.
It's a joy. I love to share. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawson. Thank you.